The haunting of the Hinterkaifeck Farm. In 1922, in the remote Bavarian woods of Germany, an unsettling and grisly event took place at a secluded farm known as Hinterkaifeck. The farm had been the home of a family of 6, Andreas Gruber, his wife, Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, her 2 children, and the maid, Maria Baumgartner. The farm was isolated, far from the nearest town, which made it an ideal place for farming but also left the family vulnerable to whatever might lurk in the shadows. The first strange occurrence happened months before the horrific event. Andreas Gruber, a farmer, had reported hearing footsteps in the snow leading up to his home from the nearby forest, but there were no tracks leading back. He also noticed tools moved from their places. His family dismissed it as a figment of his imagination, but Andreas grew more and more uneasy. Despite his concerns, nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first. But then, in late March of 1922, something truly horrific took place. One night, after dinner, the family went to bed, unaware that an unknown figure had been hiding in their barn. For days, the perpetrator remained unseen, silently watching the family. Whoever it was had been living off the farm's resources, taking food, water, and making little sound. The family grew increasingly anxious, but they couldn't figure out who was behind the eerie disturbances. On the night of March 31st, tragedy struck. It was a stormy night, with the wind howling through the trees, when one by one, the family members were brutally murdered. The killer began with Andreas Gruber, bludgeoning him to death in the attic, before moving on to Cecilia, Victoria, and the 2 children. They were all killed in their sleep, and then the maid, Maria, was murdered the next day after she arrived at the farm to work. The killer used a pickaxe, and when the authorities arrived days later, they discovered a disturbing detail: the killer had lived in the house for several days, hiding in the attic and even using the stove for warmth. Whoever it was close enough to the family to study their routine and wait for the right moment. It seemed as though the murders were meticulously planned, with the killer making sure to avoid detection and even covering up evidence in an attempt to confuse investigators. Despite a massive manhunt, no one was ever charged with the murders. Local rumors spread about a mysterious figure living in the nearby woods, and some even claimed that the farm was cursed. Over the years, various theories have been proposed. Some believe it was a disgruntled servant, others suggest a family member or even a stranger who had been stalking the family for weeks. The haunting question remains unanswered: who could have been so cold and calculating to carry out such a horrific crime, and why? The Hinterkaifeck murders still baffle authorities to this day. The farm was abandoned, and the house eventually burned down in 1923 under mysterious circumstances. Some say the spirits of the Gruber family still linger in the woods, their souls trapped in the place where they met such a grisly end. But no one knows for sure. All we are left with is the chilling silence of the once bustling farm, now nothing more than an eerie, forgotten ghost of the past. This story is based on the real Hinterkaifeck murders, which remain unsolved to this day. The chilling nature of the events, combined with the eerie atmosphere surrounding the farm, has led many to consider it one of the most disturbing and unexplained true crime stories in history.